But what are garments of skin? How did the garments look like? Were they like that photo or were they different? The NIV doesn't tell us so much about how the garments look like. But when they looked at the New King James Version, this is what it says, that the Lord God made tunics of skin. Underline the word tunic. Also, the Amplified, it sheds more light to how the garments look like. Still in Genesis 3:21, and the Amplified Classic Version says, long coats, in brackets, tunics of skin. So, how did the garments look like? The garments were tunics. Now, who wore tunics? If we look ahead, who wore tunics? Tunics were worn by priests. In Exodus chapter 28, there's a detailed instruction of the priestly garment, and tunic was part of that garment, and the tunic for the priest was made of fine linen. Aaron wore a tunic. In Ezra 9, when Ezra is mourning over the sin of the Israelites, he tears his tunic. As a priest, he was dressed in a tunic. Tunics were worn by priests. Number two, tunics were worn by kings and the royal people. We see Saul giving his tunic to David to wear when David was going to fight Goliath. We also see Jonathan giving his tunic and his royal garments when he was making the friendship covenant with David. So, number two, tunics were worn by royalty. Now, having understood this, I want you to remember two things. Tunics were worn by priests, and tunics were worn by royal people. Now, going back to the Garden of Eden, what was God symbolizing when he dressed them in tunics of animal skin? God was restoring them to their rightful position as kings and priests. Tunic were worn by priests and kings. And when God dressed Adam and Eve in tunic garments, he was saying, you are priests and kings on earth. When God banished them from the Garden of Eden, they were not covered in shame. They were not walking with their heads bowed down. No, they were dressed as royalty and they were dressed as priests. God banished them not as slaves. He banished them not in shame, but in royalty and as priests. That is who our God is. That's how merciful and gracious. God is so gracious. He restored them to that place of them being priests and kings on earth.